What's up, YouTube? Southern Comic Geek coming to you this time with a Image Comics cover challenge. That's right. I've been challenged. The gauntlet has been thrown down, and I have answered the challenge today. If you want to see what I picked out for my Image Comics cover challenge from the Bearded Comic Bro and Cole's Comic Claims, stay tuned for the video. Now, before we get into all of this comic book goodness, go ahead and smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm. Hit the subscribe button as well as the bell notification so when videos like this one drop ever so randomly, you are one of the first people to know and can make the conscious decision as to whether or not to watch it now or later, as long as you watch it. We appreciate you. Talking about people we appreciate, how about the list of channel members, people that are supporting the channel through their monthly membership, whether on YouTube and or Patreon. And if you are interested in joining one or both of those groups, the Linktree link is in the description below. So in thinking about the Image Comics Challenge, I actually got to looking and thought that it would be more heavily laden towards the 90s, because as a child growing up in the 90s, Image Comics was the thing. All the great artists were there, and they had been writing, or rather drawing, my favorite titles over at Marvel Comics. So when they went over and started Image, it was just a transition that had to be done, right? But I realized that I'm actually reading several Image titles these days. But it's not about the writing. It's about the cover, if I understand it correctly. Forgive me if I don't. Because I wanted to pull out one for my two of my series that I really like with Image Comics currently, and that is Oblivion Song and Firepower. But when comparing to all the other covers that for Image Comics that I had, even though I like to read it, they really didn't measure up. So just my thoughts, but did want to give an honorable mention, if you will, for two great Image titles that are currently ongoing. These are in no specific order. These are just 10 of the issues that caught my eye. First up, we got Cyberforce #1. This is the first of their ongoing series, and the gold foil. These gold foils, and I guess still, at least to some this day, are still a thing. But I actually got this one back from Second and Charles for little to nothing not too long ago. As you might know, my current comic collection is actually the third comic collection I've had. So, but this is some Mark Silvestri goodness. Mark Silvestri was the artist, main artist for Uncanny X-Men prior to Jim Lee taking over the reins. So remembering him from there mostly. And then when he moved over and started Cyberforce, a lot of similarities in the X-Men. And so I decided to take a look at those and dig the art. Not too long ago, they actually did a Kickstarter for Cyberforce. But this is Cyberforce #1 gold of the first ongoing series. Then we got Shadowhawk #1. This is the foil. Again, nice gimmicky goodness. You can see the who is Shadowhawk in the black back there. And actually, Rob Liefeld actually inked this. You can see the Liefeld down here. Jim Valentino, who I loved in Guardians of the Galaxy back in the day. I did want to throw up the newsstand version of this. Not sure what the newsstand thought when they did this right here, but nevertheless, that's the two of them right there. And it told a really cool story. Not a lot of depth, in my opinion, to the storyline, but it was a cool short story. And they did like 3 of them. There was a glow-in-the-dark cover. They had a couple of crossovers with Savage Dragon as well as Spawn. And so really cool. Dug it. Then we've got Pitt #1, and this one happens to be a newsstand too. But Pitt #1, just classic Pitt cover. Dale Keown was the quintessential artist in Peter David's run, I believe, and was a big part of me reading Hulk in those days. So when he went over to Pitt, obviously, when you look at Pitt, you think of Hulk Jr. He's very large, he's menacing, he gets angry, he tears stuff up. That's about where the similarities end. His origin story is totally different than the Hulk's. So if you haven't read Pitt, I actually just completed the whole set myself and got the last issue. But they're kind of hard to find. I mean, ever so often you'll find an issue 1, 2, or 3 out there in the wild, but the other ones I had to specifically order off of mycomicshop.com in order to finish that run out. So another really cool run, a lot of great art, ripping and tearing. And an interesting side note, in one of Pitt's back pages, fan art was sent in, and Tyler Kirkham's fan art from when he was a kid was sent in of Pitt. So first Tyler Kirkham art in a comic. They did it for J. Scott Campbell. All right, with the Nintendo Power. Then we got Walking Dead Deluxe. I did not get in on Walking Dead back when it was a thing back in the day. But I have been getting in on the Walking Dead Deluxe largely because all of the David Finch covers. The Finch covers are the ones I get. And just really cool Finch covers. Finch kills it on the artistry on every single cover. And then I dig the story on the inside too. So it's an added bonus, right? Then next up, we got Ice Cream Man issue number 20 right here. A little homage to Dr. Seuss. I dig me some homages. And I'm one of the main suckers that buys all the homage covers, particularly for covers that I like Hulk 181. But in this case, we have the children's books. I do the movie posters and things like that, homage covers too, which you'll see relatable in one of their next picks. But Ice Cream Man is a very trippy tale. So if you like trippy, you can read Ice Cream Man. But I dig the homage covers that they did more than anything. I'm on and off again on Ice Cream Man, but I'm not a huge horror guy. But nevertheless, if you like horror, Ice Cream Man might be for you too. Next up, we got Stray Dogs. This is the blank sketch, and this was done by one of the artists. I got him to do a Labrador for me at a con that I was at. And Stray Dogs, I asked him then, I said, when are y'all going to run out of horror movie homages that you can continue to do this with? He said, I have no idea. I think we're about wrapped up. And there have been many, 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 many more. I mean, the Dog Days came out after that, which he had said something about that being the case. But man, they had so many homages. All of them are great. I finally had to just put a hard stop on it and say only ones that I really, really, really like, as opposed to really neat, if that makes sense. But anyhow, that is Stray Dogs. Just about, if you like homages, Stray Dogs has an homage for you. That's for sure. Next up, boom, we got Savage Dragon number 2. This is part of the ongoing series, and this one is signed by Eric Larson himself. Wasn't a huge Savage Dragon fan. Eric Larson's a little too risque for me. But Image at one time did Turtles. This is the only Eric Larson signature I have, and it's got the Turtles on it to boot. So pretty dope, pretty dope. Then we've got, boom, Primordial number 1, John Jang cover. Look at John Jang scribbled on there for me. Picked this up when it first came out. Jeff Lemire, just about anything Jeff Lemire writes, I'm going to take a stab at, which leads me to, I didn't have the comics because I read them in trade, but Ascender and Descender, fantastic stories, wonderful art. I really need to get at least like issue 1 or something like that, I feel. But nevertheless, mentioned Oblivion Song and Firepower earlier, and wanted to also mention Ascender and Descender, which have since ended. But Very trippy tell. Him and Andres Sortino on the interior art really tell a weird tale like they did with Gideon Falls and some other work that they've teamed up on. But really dig the monkey and the John Jane cover and that SIG on top of it. Boom. We got the Boss Logic cover for Noctera #1, signed by Scott Snyder, the writer. Of course, Tony Daniels does the interior art as well. And just Noctera is a really awesome story. A lot of covers to pick from. Probably, to be honest with you, the Boss Logic tipped it for me just because of the realism and because of the signature on it. So now, if you know I'm a Jim Lee fan, you're wondering, how could you not have Jim Lee in here? I thought about Death Blow #1, which is another honorable mention with the black cover. But I had to go with this one right here, Wildcats #1 gold edition. It's embossed goodness with that Jim Lee signature right there. So definitely was a fan of Jim Lee in the latter issues of Uncanny X-Men that he drew, and then going into X-Men 1 and beyond, where he was at the helm. And it was just really loved his art. So Wildcats, like Cyberforce, has a lot of similarities, a lot of the characters there. Grip, since Jim Lee went to DC, of course, he sold all of the Wildcats properties to DC, and they've started actually using Grifter more recently. So that's really cool. Using it with Batman's and even added boost. But nevertheless, all the team right here in gold with a Jim Lee SIG. How could you not like? Well, if it was a 9.8, it'd be even better. But I did buy this raw, and I had it slabbed, so 9.6 is pretty good in my book. Tell me what you think about these in the comments below. If you were to do an Image Comic challenge, would these be the ones you picked? Or would you have some other ones? Let me know. I believe this is just for the month of March, so go ahead and get your videos out there. No judgment here. If you pick a Youngblood cover or Brigade or some other Rob Liefeld property, you'll notice that was strangely absent from my picks. But nevertheless, I do appreciate each and every one of you that watches this video and any others that I pick out. Until next time, keep reading, keep collecting. Adios.